This is the DualSense Edge controller, and when it first arrived here, I was really excited to just pop it open and see what was inside and really do an impressions video in terms of how it looks and how it feels. But I wanted to try it out first, and I wanted to actually play games to see whether or not this was something that I would recommend to you or a friend or family member that is interested in getting a premium high-end controller for their gaming. And that's something that I definitely want to talk about, because at $199, it is something that is relatively expensive in comparison to a regular DualSense. Are the upgrades even worth it? And is this really something that will help you become a quote-unquote better gamer? These are the questions that I wanted to go ahead and answer within this video. Hi friends, my name is Rudy. If this is your first time here, obviously like the video if you like it, and subscribe if you find any sort of value in this video at all. When you go ahead and actually open up the box and take out the PlayStation DualSense Edge, it's actually housed in a case that really honestly feels very premium. At least for me it was. The first thing that I noticed was the PlayStation logo in the middle of the case itself. If you were to look at the zippers, there's also that same PlayStation logo, and if you were to turn it upside down, on the bottom side of the actual case, there's the familiar PlayStation icons. You have the triangle, circle, cross, as well as the square, and on the back side, there's actually a nifty little hole that you can rip open if you want to go ahead and charge your controller while it's within the case itself. Opening the case though, that's where I got my first glimpse of the DualSense Edge, and I couldn't help but be taken aback a little bit by the overall sheer quality of the controller, at least visually speaking. On top of that, you also notice the accessories that come with the controller itself. You have the USB-A to USB-C braided cable, as well as two standard caps, two high dome caps, two low dome caps, two half dome back buttons, two lever buttons for the back, as well as a connector housing for the USB-A to USB-C cable, and this is to prevent it from being disconnected while you're gaming. Frankly, the only real reason why I would see that being beneficial is if you're into competitive gaming of any type, because you're going to have the lowest latency possible while you're gaming. Also, you're not going to have to worry about the battery life. After gaming for an entire weekend with only the DualSense Edge, I noticed that the controller itself is a little bit heavier than the regular DualSense, and that's not to say that it's a bad thing. Personally, I think that it's something to take into consideration if you're considering upgrading to the PlayStation DualSense Edge. I personally found it okay, but it's definitely something to take into account. I do like the fact that the face buttons are all black. It adds a nice little bit of contrast in comparison to the regular DualSense, but one thing that I do not like about it is the fact that the front, or at least the bottom of the front, is so glossy. I wish that they would have kept that matte look. It would have just been a lot nicer and would have had way less fingerprints than what you see right now. Underneath the thumbsticks themselves are function buttons, or FN buttons, that have a lot of functionality, something to definitely talk about later on in the video. I do like the fact that on the triggers themselves, you have the PlayStation icon, so you have the squares, triangles, circles, and crosses, which just add a nice touch to everything. There's also a rubberized grip that is really nice too, but if you look closely, you'll also see that there's also the PlayStation icons there as well. On the backside, you are going to have a release latch that is there to remove that glossy front cover if you wanted to change any of the joysticks or thumbsticks that are there in case you ran into any issues. I don't think that these are Hall sensing joysticks, so you're probably going to run into drift eventually at one point or another. As of right now, replacements are $20 through PlayStation's website, which I get why they're doing it. It's nice to have the option to switch them out. I just wish that they would have gone with Hall sense joysticks. That just would have been much better, especially for the premium that you're paying, instead of regular potentiometer based joysticks. The adjustable triggers that are here are probably one of the biggest things, especially if you are here for competitive gaming. If you're into any sort of shooters or anything where you're actually using the triggers for whatever it may be, having that travel distance be put down to a minimum just feels really nice, especially when you're sitting there playing against other people in, I don't know, Apex Legends or Fortnite or COD, whatever it may be. This adds an advantage that you will have in comparison to everybody else out there using a regular DualSense. The biggest benefit to having adjustable triggers is that you're going to have a faster response time to whatever it is that you're doing on screen. If you want to aim down sight, it's going to be done faster. If you just want to go ahead and shoot from the hip, it's going to be done faster. Anything that you have that is mapped out to these specific buttons are just going to be done faster no matter what. On the back side of the controller itself, you have the two rear buttons that are programmable to any button except for a select few, and frankly I do like the fact that they're magnetic, because with the metal lever or half dome, whichever button you want to go ahead and use, you can just put that right there and it'll snap right into place, and it feels secure as you're gaming. You don't have to worry about it actually falling out of place. Because you can map anything that you want here, if there is a button that you're having to push consistently while you're playing whatever game it it is, you can map it there so you can push that button without actually removing your thumbs from the joysticks themselves as you're playing your game. So if you have something like crouching or reloading or whatever it may be that is monotonous, or if you have a scan button that is monotonous and you remove your thumb from the actual joystick while you're playing, you can just put that there, map it there, and you don't have to worry about it as you're gaming. If you want to map buttons onto these back paddles, then you're going to be using the custom profiles menu. And if you've connected the DualSense Edge to a PlayStation 5, then there should have been some sort of tutorial or guided tour on what it is specifically that you can do with this controller itself. But in case you don't know, if you hold down the function button, then there's going to be a little menu that pops up on the bottom of your screen. From there, you can adjust the in-game audio versus chat audio. You can also adjust the headphone volume, so if you want to increase the headphone as you're gaming, or you can go ahead and change the profile of the controller itself. There should be the default option, which is your triangle, and then if you have a custom profile assigned to your square, circle, or cross, then you can adjust straight from the get-go. If you hold the function button with the options button, then the actual full menu pops up and you're able to not only access all of the custom profiles that are there, but you're also able to see all of the unassigned profiles that are there. Technically, you can have 3 custom profiles that are assigned to the controller, and each user on the PlayStation 5 can have up to 30 different custom profiles. Now for the buttons themselves, technically almost every single button that is on this controller can be remapped. There's only a couple that can't be. For example, the touchpad, the PlayStation button, and the create button. They can't be remapped, but they can be disabled. This adds for a lot of functionality, and if you want to change things up, you can definitely do that. I'm just grateful for the fact that they allow this level of customization with the DualSense Edge. The thumbsticks that come with the DualSense Edge are fully customizable, so if you wanted to change out the standard thumbsticks that come there, the ones that are used to with the regular DualSense, you can use either high dome or low dome thumbsticks. These are there and are available depending on what it is that you want to customize. Obviously, you can mix and match or do whatever feels most comfortable for you. Honestly, being able to customize your gameplay is awesome in that sense. To swap out the pads on the thumbsticks are relatively easy. All you have to do is just pull it out, and then when you're ready to put on a new one, you literally choose the one you want and boom, snap it right into place. So it's relatively pretty easy to do. But if you want to adjust things even further, all you have to do is jump back into the software, and then from there, adjust and edit things to really pretty much suit your needs. So if you want to adjust the stick sensitivity or the dead zone itself, you can. There's a bunch of default profiles that are set up for you straight from the get-go. But if you want to fine tune it by adjusting the curve or the dead zone that's there, you can do so relatively very easily through the software itself. If you want to swap out the thumbsticks, I know that you can. As far as I know, I don't think that these are Hall sensing joysticks. Let me know in the comments below if you find anything else. I'm assuming that these are potentiometer based ones, so I'm assuming that they're going to drift at one point or another. But like I said earlier in the video, you can buy one of these for $19.99 USD on PlayStation's website. To switch them out, they're relatively easy. All you have to do is just release the front cover, that glossy cover that's there, lift a lever on the right side or left side depending on what it is that you're changing, pull out the actual thumbstick itself, and then from there put in the new one. It's relatively easy, and honestly I like the fact that it is easy to do. I just wish that these were Hall sensing joysticks. Again, let me know if I'm wrong in assuming that they are potentiometer ones, but if PlayStation is selling them, I'm assuming that they're potentiometer ones and we're going to experience drift at one point or another. The beautiful thing about adjusting all of this stuff within the software itself is that you get instant feedback. So as you're adjusting and fine-tuning things, you can either change the trigger dead zones or the vibration intensity. All of it can be fine-tuned until it feels right for you. And I think that this is probably the biggest factor in using the software with the PlayStation DualSense Edge. You want to get things to feel right for you and make sure that you game in the best possible way with your controller. Obviously, with all of these features that are there, you are still going to get the same features that you get with a typical DualSense. So you're still going to have the haptic feedback, the adaptive triggers, you're going to have a built-in mic as well as headphone jack, and also the gyro or motion controls that are part of this controller. I know that battery is something that people have brought up quite often when talking about the DualSense Edge, and yes, technically there is a physically smaller battery in comparison to the regular DualSense. Future Rudy here. I actually forgot to mention the average lifespan of the battery while I was gaming, and it lasted anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. The main games that I was playing was Dead Space Remake as well as Forspoken, so take that as you will. Depending on how many features you actually utilize of the DualSense Edge will impact how long the battery will last in your gaming sessions. Frankly though, as an adult that doesn't have all the time in the world to play as many video games as I would like, I've rarely ran into the issue of actually running out of battery while I'm playing with the DualSense Edge. This controller fits nice and snug onto the PlayStation official charging dock, so if you have that for your PlayStation DualSense, using a DualSense Edge on that is going to be perfectly fine. You're going to get a topped off charge every single time that you start gaming, and if you're an adult like me that can't game for more than a couple of hours at a time, you're going to be fine. You have nothing to worry about. But if you are going to be gaming for extended periods of time, even connecting it with the braided cable, you're not going to run into too much problems because there is a lot of length to that cable as it is. This is obviously something that is geared towards either a working adult, somebody that has the financial means to go ahead and spend the $200 on this controller, or somebody that is playing competitively. This will give you some form of a competitive edge. Is this controller necessary for gaming? Personally, I don't think so. I think that the DualSense is fine by itself. I mean, it still is a revolutionary controller and pushes the medium forward, at least in my opinion, especially in comparison to the Xbox Series S and X controller, as well as the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. But I do find myself going to the DualSense Edge as my main go-to for gaming on the PlayStation 5. Guys, if you have this, let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions, I'll obviously answer them as they come. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the PlayStation 5 2 years later, then click this video right over here. Until next time, guys, I will see you on the next one. Peace.